Welcome to the Think for Yourself Clubhouse. I'm your host, Bill Martin, and our co-host today is my wife, Aggie Martin. Dennis is still out doing other things, other necessary things. We're here discussing the group Pro Seniors, a 501c3 organization with Laura Drake and Cathy Rafales.
You got it. It's perfect. Perfect.
That's something. The name of the organization, Laura, is?
It's Pro Seniors. And so we're an organization that its purpose is to assist Ohioans over the age of 60. And we have several different things that we do. So I work with the hotline, which is a legal hotline where individuals who are over 60 or are assisting someone over 60 can call and get free legal assistance on the phone with an attorney for a 30-minute phone call at a time. And I always tell people it's not 30 minutes in someone's lifetime, it's 30 minutes at a time. So we have lots of people who call back and have continuing and building questions over time. And so we have, from that hotline, we have internal in-house attorneys, though they primarily handle cases that are in Claremont, Warren, Hamilton, and Butler County. That's their area. Sometimes they will get involved on state issue cases that, on some place that they'll do amicus briefs and things like that. But we only take in-house those kinds of cases, that area. We also have a Medicare specialist who assists people in obtaining their appropriate Medicare benefits, an attorney who does that. And then we have the legal, the hotline, we have a referral service where when someone calls and it has a legal question, because it's just a hotline where they give advice over the phone, we have a network of attorneys throughout the state who will take the case. Those cases, the call to Pro Seniors is free, but if it's referred to outside counsel, that might not be free. Depending on the caller's financial status, they may need to pay the attorney to handle their work, or they'll usually pay at least a reduced fee sometimes, or a full fee.
But there's a set list ahead of time so you know what you're getting.
The person knows when they get referred out to an attorney if it's free, reduced fee, or full fee. Yes.
Now, I've never heard of any of this before the last several days when Aggie kind of organized things. I need to back up a little bit and find out where we are and how we get started and all that sort of thing. Where are you folks located?
We're based in Cincinnati, and we are celebrating our 50th year. Pro Seniors has been around for 50 years. Our main office is in Reading. What is it?
Roselawn.
It's in Roselawn. There we go.
Mm-hmm. That's Cincinnati area?
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, big question, the first big question I have is how and when did you get into Jackson County, Ohio?
How did we get here?
So my job, so I started on the hotline. I was a hotline attorney, and I took phone calls from people who had legal questions. And then my job was then to refer it to outside counsel when the person needs help. And even when I started in 2009, that's when I started, I would say, you know what, you should hire me to go around and get more hotline attorneys, because I think I could get more people to sign up to be referral attorneys, because we have lots of areas in the state where we don't have attorneys right now. So someone from Lawrence County would call and they're like, I need a will, and we're like, well, you got to drive to Adams County. That's our closest attorney. So I said, please hire me to do this. And and one of our big funding sources, we get our overall funding actually is a lot of federal money. UNICEF, isn't that one of our big funders? We get grants. We get a lot of grants, and we recently got a grant specifically to have someone increase the referral program. And so that's me.
So what the news that we're getting here about free and reduced fee attorney services for seniors is the result of your making a bigger splash in Jackson County than your organization had done before. And that's the result of your getting on the phone with lawyers and saying, can you help us out to take a few referrals and that sort of thing?
Correct. Or I stopped into your office and met your wife, and we chatted for...
I noticed that. First thing I noticed, here was your sheet. Fill it out, Bill.
Yeah, exactly. I liked her a lot. I liked her because usually I talk to like the paralegal and they're like, well, I'll talk to him. But she was like, yeah, we're going to do this. And I was like, yes, I like her.
Well, full disclosure, I was in Harvard Legal Aid Society, so I've got a legal aid background.
Which we love. Yeah, that's great. So that's true. So Pro Seniors has a limited publicity marketing budget. So we rely on a lot of our partners, like area agencies on aging. They're actually some of our they do a lot of publicity for us, and a lot of that has to do with connections and that people make. So yes, it's
and I can share a little bit about our involvement in Jackson as well. So the program that I run is called the Ohio Senior Medicare Patrol, and we subcontract some of our grant funds to the different area agencies on aging. So Area Agency on Aging number 7 is the one that serves Jackson.
Yeah.
And we work very closely with them. We've trained them all about how to keep an eye out both for Medicare fraud and scams and how to educate people about that. But we've also trained them all about Pro Seniors. And so people who work at that Area Agency on Aging number 7 also talk about Pro Seniors and are able to get the word out.
What about Medicaid, nursing home issues and things like that? Is that within your purview?
So that is definitely one of the things that people would be calling our helpline about. And people who are calling our helpline, they're, as Laura mentioned, they're 60 or over and they're in Ohio. Does not matter how much money they make. So the only 2 things that you have to do to call us if you have a question about Medicaid or Medicaid and Medicare working together or anything like that is be 60 or over and live in Ohio. It's that simple.
And we get a lot of calls on behalf of the children of people. So your mom is 72 and needs Medicaid. You know, the 50-year-old daughter can call because mom is the Pro Seniors client. And we don't actually require a power of attorney. We're giving general advice about the Medicaid process. So we'll walk the daughter through documents they might need for a Medicaid application. Oh, you've been denied. What are common reasons to appeal? And then those are also the people that if like they have a hearing coming up, we'll refer them to counsel to assist
And these things can happen on the phone with you or some other attorney. How many other attorneys take these phone calls?
I think we usually have about 20 on staff. They're all part-time. That's not true. One is not part-time. But the rest are all part-time. And so they work usually at least 8 hours a week. That's the commitment everyone makes, to work 8 hours, a minimum of 8 hours a week, which at a half an hour is at least 16 calls a week.
So the call line is open?
So you call in and you actually make an appointment. Most people schedule an appointment within 7 days.
And where does that appointment take place?
It's a phone appointment. So wherever you are, Pro Seniors calls you at the appointed time or within a few minutes of it and talks to you over the phone for 30 minutes.
And that's a free 30 minutes.
It's free 30 minutes.
All right,
correct.
now let's focus in on some of the issues here because viewers, it's important that we get the idea here that there is free of cost or low cost assistance for seniors for their kinds of problems. Now, what are their kinds of problems? As a senior myself, I talk to a lot of seniors. Seniors want to know what arrangements they should make for their estate. So we're talking about wills inside what you do, power of attorneys.
Correct.
Why you should have a power of attorney. Now, I'm kind of skeptical for most middle-class senior citizens about trusts, unless, of course, you have more than $15 million and you need to let the government get more than they have to, or if you have a disabled child
Correct.
or something like that. But other than those special kind of circumstances, if the senior had a simple will, if they had a standard form powers of attorney, then they'll be set up legally for something that will cover a lot of problems that may arise in their lives, and they'll be able to get that setup done for a reasonable amount of money. That's what you guys are saying.
Correct.
And you're going to give me the number here, and I'm going to plaster it all over the screen.
Yeah.
So what number do they call?
1-800-488-6070. And I can't believe I still know that by heart.
Because you don't call it very much, do
Never. But, I want to point out that if you call Pro Seniors, we give advice over the phone, and we will give referrals to outside counsel. And it's true that you might get a low cost referral if you're 186% or below, or around the poverty line, 186% or below, which is about, I don't know, $28,000 in income. But if you're not, we would refer you to a counsel who they'll charge their regular fee.
Well,
That being said, if we also will give advice over the phone, and we'll give them connections where they could find a healthcare power of attorney or a living will for free. And on Pro Senior's website, if you do not own real estate, we have a link where you can create your own financial power of attorney. We do not recommend it for people who own real estate, because real estate has an extra level of care and there's some other things to take into consideration. But if you don't own real estate, it's a very good system.
I've found for a lot of folks, a lot of seniors, they're just not conversant with the system. They don't know that there's a place to call and somebody will be friendly and try to talk to them, explain to them the way this legal system works. A lot of folks just don't have any contact with lawyers, don't want to have any contact with lawyers, afraid of lawyers.
Well,
So if
and it
there's
can cost, for 15 minutes, it can cost a lot of money to talk to an attorney.
Yeah, and
so it's nice
so
to
at
have
least you can get the assurance that the phone call won't cost you anything.
Correct.
That's
And it's on top of everything else in the 1-800 number. So
That's correct. I will say if you call us, we afterwards will send you a letter to ask how did the call go? Was the attorney that you spoke to helpful? The hotline attorney? Did you get an answer? And then it's true, we'll ask you for a donation. You don't have to give us a donation, but we will ask us for a donation because it's one of the ways that we're funded is through donations. But
now, I talked about the estate planning kinds of problems that seniors have typically in Ohio. The other one that we hear a lot about are the Medicaid and Medicare type questions, especially about nursing homes. Is the state going to take my house? All that sort of thing. So there's a telephone number that they can access and at least get an intelligent, friendly, low-cost conversation about the issues and perhaps a referral to go somewhere else.
yeah, and also on Pro Seniors' website, proseniors.org, we have resource materials that explain a lot of that information and have up-to-date figures. It's turning into a new year, so it's a little bit off now. But and I will say a lot of the attorneys that I know who do Medicaid practices, they refer their clients to Pro Seniors websites for these pamphlets. And you'll see all the topics we cover: Medicare, Medicaid, community Medicaid, which is Medicaid, like Affordable Care Act, things like that, versus institutional Medicaid, the nursing home answers, and how you apply for Medicaid and things like that. We have things about powers of attorney, and we have quite a large, and you have a bunch of stuff.
And so we also have, when it comes to like Medicaid estate recovery, which you were asking about, we also have some videos. So sometimes those videos might be a little higher level. They're taught by our managing attorney, and her name is Miriam, and she does such a fantastic job. So we have referred a lot of our people who are professionals that work with older adults to our website so that they can watch and learn. So we're kind of educating other professionals as well.
Can you give me the reference to the website so I can plaster it
It's
below here?
www.proseniors, all one word, .org.
Okay, and if you're stuck, Google Pro Seniors, one word.
That's right.
That's right.
And then the other thing Laura mentioned is, so the program that I run, the Ohio Senior Medicare Patrol, we have tons of information about Medicare, Medicare fraud, Medicare scams, how you can kind of keep up to date with what the current scam tactics are and how you can keep yourself
What's an
safe.
example of that?
So very, very common right now would be the urinary catheter scam. That is something that's happening across Ohio. I think I had 5 or 6 calls yesterday alone about this. And what happens is only people who are checking their statements from Medicare are seeing that this is happening. They're getting billed for multiple months of catheter supplies, even though they never got catheters. They don't need catheters. They shouldn't, have them. They're not prescribed by their doctor. So they find out that they've been billed, approximately $2,000 a month for the last 4 months for a product that they don't need and didn't get.
A little confused.
Yeah.
Who was supposed to pay that? The Medicare government or?
Oh, yes, sir. Medicare.
We're defrauding the government with these things?
Yes, would you like me to tell you how much every year we're losing?
Oh, ears.
The estimate is between $60 to $100 billion
With a B, billion.
annually.
So
Yes.
what's going on is these vendors are making fraudulent applications to the government
Correct.
for compensation for services supposedly given to
Correct.
the senior, and it's the senior's part in it, I guess, is to receive these things. Do they get in the mail, email?
Sometimes, so catheters people don't usually get in the mail. Their Medicare number is compromised and their account is charged. But another version of that would be durable medical equipment like a back brace. So sometimes you'll get, I'm sure all of your listeners are getting tons of calls every day that say spam likely. So sometimes those calls are people who are saying Medicare's giving out free braces. And then a person says, okay, great. And they say, give me your Medicare number. Well, that is 100% a scam. Medicare doesn't give out free products and will never call you. So those calls are happening. Then the person receives the brace in the mail. Frequently looks like a contraption that has like what you would get after physical therapy. So it's got the arm braces we've seen have dials and levers and Velcro and all this stuff. It's not just one of those compression things. We're talking $2,000 for an arm brace.
Is there a physician in the background somewhere signing off on this?
So we do see a lot of cases where there's kickbacks happening. So there are some cases where a physician is signing off on a fraudulent order. Yes, that is happening.
So
It's not usually the people who are our doctors. Usually the people who are our doctors are making regular money by being real doctors. But there are people who are doctors who make most of their money by signing these
Well, it's not that
orders.
far off from during the OxyContin crisis.
Yeah.
The doctors would just write scripts for no reason at all.
Yeah, there's so many ways this can look. We've seen things where someone will have a business helping with like drug rehab, for example, and then they will they call it body brokering, where in California they'll have people that there's space for them to go to these fake drug rehab, and then they'll actually ship people from one state to another. I mean, the ways that the system is being taken advantage of, the people who are doing this, they have a lot of creativity, and unfortunately, if they would put that energy and intelligence into helping us, our world would be a much better place.
So did they ever get caught?
They do get caught. There was, in 2025, actually, the Department of Justice had a really big bust. It was called Operation Gold Rush. I'm sure they thought they were being funny because it was the catheter scam. But they pulled back about $14 billion. So, and this was in multiple states. You can Google it. It was around the country. So, and this was actually transnational criminal organizations purchased legitimate Medicare vendor businesses, purchase those, and then use those businesses to commit the fraud.
Do you know what agency committed this operation? Would that be like the FBI? Or?
So you've got lots of different parts, moving parts in the law enforcement field. The ones that we frequently work with in our program, if somebody out there thinks they may have experienced Medicare fraud, they can call the Ohio Senior Medicare Patrol, and we actually can report their case. And so a regular person who experiences Medicare fraud can actually help catch these people. We report that to the Health and Human Services Office of Inspector General. They aggregate the data and they send it to Department of Justice.
Department of Justice are the enforcers?
Yes.
Okay.
So is there a number? What is?
Yeah, our number is 800.
That's the senior.
For Senior Medicare Patrol, it's 800-293-4767. And we also have a real live person answering those calls. Her name's Mary Helen. It's Monday through Friday from 8 to 4. And she helps people get new Medicare numbers, mark their accounts for fraud, and then she reports and provides evidence to the government so we can catch people.
Let me read this back.
Yeah.
1-800-293-4767.
You got it.
Lady's name is Mary Helen.
Mary Helen, yeah.
And the idea is, viewers, if you think you're being exposed to Medicare or
It's Medicare fraud.
Medicare
Medicaid fraud is also a big thing, and that would be through the Ohio Attorney General's office. They have a whole department.
Because that's a state operation.
That's right. That's right.
Medicare would be a Fed operation. That's what
it.
you're talking about.
You got it.
Call the number that you're probably seeing now, this would go to one of the folks in your organization who would package up these calls and send them to the federal government appropriate office for enforcement.
That's right.
And you have reason to believe that they really do enforce because there was a biggie
Oh
recently.
yeah. Oh yeah.
The Golden
Operation Gold Rush.
Operation Gold Rush
I hope it's
relating to
urinary catheter.
urinary catheters.
Now, I
Yeah.
will say, I watched a presentation by the investigator for that operation, and he said that Operation Gold Rush was the more professional name, and he wanted to call it Operation You're in Trouble.
Enough levity. You
I'm so sorry.
All right, so we've talked about estate planning, a reasonable way for seniors to approach that problem. We've talked about Medicare, Medicaid problems. We've talked about Medicare, in particular fraud reporting. My notes here indicate that you've got three main pillars of service. We talked about legal helpline. We've talked about there's a long-term care ombudsman.
Yes.
Yes. So what they do is if someone in your family is living in a nursing home, and there's some inability to communicate effectively with the nursing home about the person's care or needs, or so the long-term care ombudsman will come in and act on behalf of the resident of the nursing home to kind of act as a mediator, an intermediary between the families and the organization to try and make sure they get the services and the care that they're entitled to. Mm-hmm. And so they act, they go and they're wonderful, really. It's a really neat thing. Mm-hmm. And it's something that there are some paid ombudsmen and there are also some volunteer ombudsmen. And so we have a lot of seniors who are retired who volunteer to be ombudsmen, and they take as many cases as they feel that they can handle, and they deal with things like, they shouldn't have sugar, but you keep giving them Coke, or and we've got to figure out a way to stop this, or their roommate is very loud and the noise is bothering them. How do we approach that? And they any kind of situation, their catheter isn't getting changed often enough. Mm-hmm. It might be medical, just to draw it back to the other conversation. So they that's what they do. Their job is to advocate on behalf of the resident.
Do they do most of their advocacy over the telephone, Laura?
They actually go into the nursing homes overwhelmingly.
In
yes.
Jackson County?
So there's a long-term care ombudsman here. Mm-hmm. It would be a different office.
Yeah, we actually just looked it up when I got here. So it's through the Area Agency on Aging 7.
Mm-hmm. So there's a reference to Area 7.
Yes.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the ombudsman there?
For Jackson County,
For
yes.
Jackson County. So if you're having trouble with a nursing home and they're not listening to you,
yes,
and you feel like you need an advocate,
mm-hmm.
then if they call you folks, you can make an appropriate reference to Area 7.
Correct, absolutely.
And then Area 7 will have an actually on-board person that goes out to the nursing home and has a chat with the
yes.
person in charge.
Yeah, and so talking about like when the hotline gets phone calls, last year the hotline received over 13,000 calls from from individuals throughout the state of Ohio. Only about 2,600 were referred to attorneys. Most were resolved either in-house or referred to non-attorneys, like the Ombudsman Program, Council on Aging, the Attorney General. Some of them, they need to go to the Department of Insurance, or that's a big part of what the hotline does. Mm-hmm. So if we got that call about, my dad's in the nursing home and they're not treating him well, and we're really concerned about that, we would refer them to the Council on Aging for that long-term care ombudsman. Now, if they called and said that there was medical malpractice occurring, then we would try and find, if there's a nursing home litigation situation, then we refer them to an attorney.
So Kathy, you said earlier that the in-house lawyer had something to do with making sure people could put cameras.
Yeah, so
And-
sometimes, kind of like what Laura was saying, when we get all these helpline calls, we are monitoring for trends. And when we can find something that our in-house attorneys can really make a bigger impact, so if they're helping one person, we know that that advocacy could really expand and help a lot of other people. So an example of that is that we advocated for the passage of Esther's Law, which is a law that says to long-term care facilities that, in nursing homes specifically, that a family member, say your family member maybe is in a memory care unit, and you are wanting to know what's happening, and the facility says one thing and you don't believe them. This son wanted to put a camera in his mom's room and the facility said no. So we did a lot of work with advocacy for that. And amazingly, part of the law is that you have to put a sign on the door that says there's recording in progress. And once that sign goes on the door, people's care tends to improve.
I like that. I would get folks call me sometimes.
Sure.
And it isn't unusual to get a call such as, my mother has an accident and she has to just lie in it for 2 hours. What can I do? Is that the sort of thing that can be funneled through you folks, this Area 7, and have somebody actually go out to the nursing home and perhaps say, you need your people to change these folks quicker?
Yes.
Yes, and we're
Well,
not.
that's just absolutely typical of the thing that I hear about.
Yeah, that's awful.
Yeah.
I think we are not enforcement
Yeah.
people, so we go in, we can do some basic stuff, but the Department of Health and the Department of Aging are going to get way more intricately involved if there are health and safety concerns in a facility.
Yeah.
It's been my experience that sometimes people need an advocate. They need somebody to, well, we sometimes use the word bitch. And you folks are able to assist with the advocacy part of that.
That's right.
To get that
Do
thing
you,
started.
do you know one of the things that our long-term care ombudsman director told me is that 60% of people who are in long-term care facilities do not get any visitors. Yeah. And so this is, if nothing else, this is a way of giving back to your community, just keeping people company, checking in, letting them know they matter.
Aggie, you been taking notes, got anything?
Not really. I've been watching you take notes.
Okay, ladies, I've been through the material that I've got. Is there anything else, any other subjects you'd like to broach while we're here?
So I was going to talk. I want to go back a little bit about estate planning and talk
Okay.
about. We did talk about that in Ohio we don't usually need a trust anymore, and that's the reason we don't need a trust is because you can make all of your bank accounts transfer on death or payable on death. For your car, if you pass away and you're married, your spouse gets your car without going through probate. And if you're not married, you can do what's called a transfer on death title, where you say, when I die, if I still own this car, Susie gets it. And you fill out this form and you take it to the title office and they will take care of that. But if you want to sell your car, Susie doesn't have to be asked questions about selling it. Susie doesn't have any rights until you pass away. And we can also do that with our house. And so I love a transfer on death affidavit for a house. To me, it's the ultimate way to avoid probate, and it's so inexpensive. So if you still own your house when you die, or the second of you and your spouse die, now it says it goes to the kids or the grandkids or pro seniors. I don't care who you leave it to. But then again, they don't have to go through probate to get the house. They just get the house, and it's a really easy way to avoid all that. And
I
it's
think they changed the name of the form, but yeah, it's an affidavit.
yeah, it's an affidavit. Yeah. So, but we still call it the transfer on death, and it's not a deed anymore. It's a transfer on death affidavit. So it used to be
It's
a
an
transfer.
affidavit, yeah.
And I always laugh about that because I bought my house in 2000, and so it was in a trust back then. That's the only thing you could do. You had to use a trust to avoid probate, and I've never taken it out. But everyone I advise, I'm like, don't use a trust. It's silly. But I leave mine in the trust. Anyway, my dogs inherit my house. It's fine.
Well, I hesitate to say, but some practicing attorneys will suggest that going to probate isn't the end of the world.
No, it's not the end of the world, but it is not. But it's one of those things that if you don't have a lot of assets, it's a nice way to avoid it. And also, I always say that if you're going to leave the house to the kids, if they all get along, the transfer on death is great. But if they hate each other, just go to probate, because you don't want one, and it's a nightmare. So, but the hotline takes calls on every type of case. So primarily, I think probably 60% of the calls are estate planning, probate, and Medicaid planning and Medicare. We have one attorney who does Medicare cases. All the attorneys on the hotline take the calls, but if it's remotely complicated, we go running to them. Like, we don't know.
And that can get complicated.
Yeah, Medicare is very specific. I mean, especially legal aspects. That's
There are very
what,
detailed regulations you have to be familiar with. And not very many general practice lawyers, for example, in Jackson are.
correct. Yeah, and so
you need to find some expertise.
yeah, and so we have an in-house Medicare attorney who takes those. Thank goodness. But we get calls. Lots of neighbor disputes. Those are my favorite, because I don't like my neighbors either. So I'm like, oh, I get it. I'm like, I'm with you. Your neighbor's horrible. I believe you. So we do a lot of neighbor disputes, foreclosure defense, just credit collections. We get a lot of people who are on a fixed income. They're seniors, and there's a period of time. There's some bad debt out there, and they'll call about bankruptcy. Sometimes we do recommend that people file bankruptcy, but as you guys, as the attorneys in the room know, your Social Security check and your pension, you can't garnish those. And so for a lot of people, there's no reason to file bankruptcy, and the attorney will go over the figures and the facts and determine if that makes sense. But we refer people out for those things also. So it's. And we even get, like I said, people calling about criminal cases, though that is by far probably the smallest percentage that we get. Because you know what? Not a lot of people over 60 are committing crimes.
But everybody over 60 has some of these other problems.
Yes.
It's just absolutely common.
As a non-attorney here, I do want to stress that it is important to do powers of attorney and wills, because you're stuck doing a guardianship if you don't have a power of attorney, and a guardianship is a big bother comparatively. And a will, if you have a complicated family, you really need to do a will, or things might basically never get settled.
If you have an estate with no will and no children, but you got a bunch of cousins. Well, one time we did dozens of cousins trying to do all the notifications.
We had 23 people on a Form 1 or something.
Oh, God.
Wow.
Yeah.
That was years ago. We haven't done that again.
As an attorney, I've experienced that too. So no, I don't want to discourage people from doing a will by any means. I just want to point out that these transfer on death documents help avoid probate.
You can avoid
what we find a
some
lot
cases.
is that when you have a husband and wife pair, the first to pass, there's no probate work to be done because it's all survivorship.
Right.
Second to pass, it's in the widow's name, and if she hasn't got one of those transfer on death affidavits, as frequently they do not, then that's where the probate court comes in. Again, not the end of the world.
No, it's not the end. Yeah, and but it's one of these things. I agree, though. The power of attorney is so important. A lot of what I do in my private practice is I'm the guardian of estate for people, and I just think like this is such a waste of money that they're that just because no one planned ahead, and then the reason I become the guardian of the estate is because the family's involved, but they're not residents of Ohio. So none of them can be the guardian of the guardian of the estate because they can't be bond. They're not under the court can't arrest them if they do something bad. So they don't let them be the guardian, and they'll make the decision about which nursing home where they live, and I just pay all the bills. And I mean that's fine, but it's if there just had been a power of attorney in place, none of this would have been necessary. And just the bond alone can be several $1,000s a year.
Of course, you have to have somebody you trust to give that power.
If you have somebody you trust, power of attorney is a really good instrument. It's a very powerful instrument, I find. I oftentimes counsel my clients. It's so powerful that you want to kind of keep it close to your vest and tell the kid, you oldest responsible child, keep your digits off unless I have a stroke, kind of thing.
Right.
Folks, it's clock on the wall says wrap it up. Got any concluding remarks on your side?
Just thanks for having us.
Yes, thanks so much for having us. Well, I hope the residents of Jackson County and the surrounding counties, because like I said, it's for the whole state of Ohio, that you take advantage of this because it's something that
I'm getting the impression that you guys are kind of the new kids in town, and
well,
as far as Jackson County is concerned, and I think it's a resource that our viewers might pay attention to.
Great. Well, we hope so. Thanks so much.
Okay, that'll do it. We're here in the studio after Laura and Cathy left, and Aggie had a comment that she said she wished she'd made during the production, and I give her a chance now. We'll make this kind of a postscript. Aggie, you were talking about how you handle telephone calls. You get a lot of them.
When I get a telephone call and I have no idea who it's from, if they start asking me for information, I just shut that whole thing down and don't answer anything. If they get one piece of information from you, this phone call, and then call another time to get more information, they can start adding things up, and you won't know how much they can use against you. They might find out about your family if you tell them about your family. Your grandkids, you might give away their names. You should just not give people information when you don't know who they are. You can investigate, you can take notes and investigate the name that they claim to be and see if there's a scam going on out there online or by phone. The credit card company is not going to call you over the phone and ask you a bunch of numbers. Social Security, government agencies, they're not going to call you on the phone. They're going to notify you by mail. So you should just not give out personal information to people who call you.
And your computer provider will not call you and ask for information either. I often kind of dodge it by just saying, well, send me an email. Here's my public email address, and they can send the email or not send the email. I don't care. Okay, I think that'll wrap it up.